And that should answer the question, right? This will definitely be recorded. We're looking probably about anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. What we'll be covering today is how to connect your email service provider, your email marketing platform, whatever you call it, your ESP, to bucket.io. And there's a couple of different ways to do it now. So we're going to look at both ways, and I'll give you guys some cool news that's coming up as far as other integrations and what to expect. And yeah, I think by the end of this call, you should really have the information that you need to go and connect your email service provider to Bucket. And hopefully it'll be a lot easier for you than it is right now if you're struggling. But if it's not, you know what you get, right? If you stick around to the end of this call, I will put out a link to schedule a one-on-one call with a Bucket specialist. That'll be either myself or another one of our awesome Bucket specialists, to where we could jump on the phone with you. Not the phone, I should say, a Zoom chat where we can connect with you and do like a screen share and make sure you get whatever problem you may be having that's blocking you with Bucket, get that solved in about 15 minutes and get you moving forward. So if you stick around to the end of this call, I'll send out a link to that and you can jump on our schedule. All right, well, let's get this thing going. We want to get this, if you're right now trying to get your email service provider connected to Bucket, by the end of this webinar, you'll know how to do that. And I'm also going to show you exactly how to send over all the data that you collect from your responses, because that's the beauty of Bucket, right? So you're collecting more information so that you can use that to segment your audience, both on the site during their experience and through your communications through email. So we're going to walk through setting all of that up on this call today. All right. So there's two ways that you can connect your email service provider to Bucket. The most popular way, where you can connect to pretty much every email platform out there, except maybe like just a small handful. But the most popular way is through Zapier. And if you're not familiar with Zapier, Zapier is it's a web service that what it does is it connects web softwares together. So you've got bucket.io is a web software, right? Your email service provider is also a web software. And so since Bucket doesn't send emails out, all Bucket does is collect responses and segments people and adds, attaches data to a lead. Then what we need Zapier for is to connect Bucket to the email provider so that you can email the people that are filling out your surveys or going through your segmentation funnels. So that's what Zapier's role is. And so what we've got to do is connect Bucket to Zapier, connect your email provider to Zapier, and then let Zapier send the information from Bucket to your email provider. And that could be, Drip, Aweber, GetResponse, and so on. So we're going to walk through that step first, and then I'm going to show you another option, which is the direct integration option. And what we're doing currently is adding different email providers to that direct integration capability one at a time. And so I'll show you how the one that we have in the system now, which is MailChimp, and here in a few minutes, and then I'll kind of give you some ideas on what to expect in the future. All right, which looks like that may actually have been a question. Yes, someone asked if there will be a direct drip integration in the future. My guess is a very good yes, solid yes, in fact. We've got a lot of people asking for that exact thing. So, all right, let's move forward, but for now, you'll need to use Zapier. And so for those of you using Drip, this is perfect for you. In fact, this is perfect for anybody using anything besides MailChimp. So the first thing that you're going to need to do to use Zapier, obviously, is to have a Zapier account. Now, the good news is that for about 90% of your email service providers, you can get a Zapier account and use it for free. There are some that require just to use Zapier. They require you to have a premium account, which you can shop Zapier and figure out what's the best rate for you. But for most people, just kind of setting things up, running just even a decent amount of volume through it, you can use the Zapier platform for free. But you do need to create a Zapier account. So if you have not done that yet, just go to Zapier.com and then create your login. I'll just do that real quick just so you can see. It's real simple. Just fill out your name, email. They don't even require a credit card to set the account up. All right, and then that way later on you'll already have the account set up so that when you go to do the connection inside of Bucket, all of that is already set up. So all you've got to do is add your Bucket and your email service provider accounts. And I'll walk you guys through exactly how to set that up here in a second. So one thing I want to point out though, and let me kind of jump back over here. One of the important things that you're going to need to make sure of is that when you're sending your information over to Zapier, you've got to set up what are called Zapier Tags, okay? And what that means is inside of Bucket, here I'll just jump into Bucket real quick and show you what I'm talking about. You know what, why don't I do this? I'm going to make a copy of one of these surveys, and I'm just going to walk you guys through setting up some Zapier tags, because this is how you're going to send your information over to Zapier, so that Zapier can then send the information over to, remember, your email service provider. So in order to get all that stuff over, you've got to tag it inside of your funnel or your survey. All right, and the way that you do that is for each question that you want to send to your email service provider. So let's say you've got drip, and if you wanted to send, you've got this. I just got this survey right here pulled up, and for everything that I wanted to send to my email service provider, and everything I want to send to Drip or Aweber or GetResponse or Infusionsoft or whatever I'm using, what I've got to do is I've come over to each question. You see where it says Zapier tag? Well, what I want to do is I want to name this field so that I know later on what I'm going to be sending over. So for this case, let's just call this struggle. All right, I'm going to hit save. And so now, later on when I'm in Zapier and I select struggle, then everything that got typed in, when this person fills out the survey, whatever they type in here is going to be sent over to Zapier so that I can use that later on. So here I've got, are you enrolled in ask method? So I'll just type in ask. I'll hit save. I'm going to do the same thing on this last one here. I'm going to add this Zapier tag. It's use bucket, so I'll just call it use bucket or Bucky. Use bucket. All right, and so now what I've done is everything that gets filled out here I can send over to Zapier, and then of course Zapier will send it off to my email service provider. So real quick, I just want to make sure, is everyone on the same page with setting up the Zapier tags? So once you have your Zapier account, you'll come in, build your survey or your segmentation funnel in Bucket, but then everything that you want to send off to your email service provider, it needs to have a Zapier tag. Everybody on the same page? I'm going to pull this thing up here just to make sure. All right, yes, good. All right, good. I just wanted to make sure I'm not leaving you guys behind here. So if you have any questions about this part, let me know. We do have one of our support specialists on the chat. So if you have a question that comes up, you're like, well, what about that? Or any question at all, you can ask it in the chat, and one of our support specialists will answer it. If they don't get to it, or even if they do get to it, but if it's something that looks like I need to bring up, then I will circle back around and we'll definitely get that question answered. So it looks like everybody's on the same page with me so far as Zapier tags. Now, what I've done so far is I've added Zapier tags for questions, okay? So now, based on whatever you fill in on this, this survey, I can send it over to Zapier. And now I want to show you how I'm going to do that. So first thing I want to do is now I want to go to Configure. This is where you'll actually do your Zapier integration. But before I actually do that, I'm going to rename this thing. We'll rename it to 26. If you've ever seen been on one of these calls before, you know one of the big things that I always tell you to do anytime you make a clone of one of your surveys or segmentation funnels is you always want to come over here and rename it so you don't have a bunch of copy ofs. So that's just a little pro tip for you there. All right, so I'm going to save changes. And now you see this little kind of this is the Zapier kind of logo, or the Red Hot Chili Peppers logo. That's what it looks like to me. Anyways, you just come over here. You'll click on integration. Again, there's two, right? So you see this direct integrations up here. We're not going to be using that one yet. We'll use this one here. And then what we want to do is manage our integrations right here from Bucket. So I'm going to click Manage Integration. I'm going to continue with a test lead. And now it brings me to this page. If you're not logged in, it'll bring you to a page that looks like this. So if you already have an account, all you've got to do is log in to accept the invite. If you haven't signed up for an account yet, then you could also sign up to accept the invite here. And it'll do the same thing. So I'm going to hit login. I'm going to go ahead and just log in here. And you're going to always see, whether it's your first Zap or your millionth Zap, it'll always say my first Zap with bucket.io app. So don't freak out and think you did something wrong. It's always going to say that. So we're going to create the Zap. And so just so you know what's happening here, now what we're doing is setting up that bucket connection part of the process, right? Remember I said we've got to connect our bucket and our email provider to Zapier. So we're in that first phase. One thing I always tell people to do is, before you move off of here, is to change this. So it's where it says up here, my first Zap with bucket.io app. I always say just to change that to whatever it is you're doing. So we'll call this one a one-on-one call survey. So that way you'll know later on when you need to go look at your Zaps, if you ever do need to, you'll have the names are different. They won't all be named my first Zap. And so in this case, since we're using a Discover survey, we're going to come down here and click New Discover. And did I? Please tell me I hit save. I may not have. Let me back up here. I did. All right. Anyways, so I just wanted to make sure I had changed the name on it and saved it. So now that we're gonna, since we're using a Discover survey, I'm gonna hit Save and Continue. Now, what you're always going to see is this screen right here. It's going to say, you know, which of these bucket accounts do you want to use? If you have not already added one, it's super simple to do. All you've got to do, if you get to this screen and you don't already have your bucket account attached to Zapier, you just jump right back over to Bucket, click on your name, which is up in the top right, click on Account Settings, and then you've got this API key here, all right? You just highlight that key, click Copy. Now, one thing, and I've seen a lot of people do this, don't do this. Don't click this button, because once you click that button, it creates a new key, and any Zap you have created will be broken, all right? So you would only need to do this if maybe some kind of hack had come out, or if one of your accounts had been compromised, and you wanted to just protect that connection, or if you got like a new account or gave someone access. but it's very rare that you'll want to regenerate a new API key. Okay, just so you know, this doesn't copy. You just have to highlight it, right-click it, or hit Control-C, copy that, and then let's jump back over here to Zapier. If this is your first time connecting, just click on this Connect an Account. Where it says enter your API key, just paste that bad boy in right there, hit yes, continue, and you only have to do that once. As you can see here, this one was added 4 months, 1 week ago. You only need to do it the one time. All right, and so then I'm going to save and continue. Now what we're going to do is connect the survey that we just cloned and created to Zapier. And so what you got here is this drop-down list that will have all your surveys in it. And now do you see why it would be an absolute nightmare if you didn't name these things in a way that you could instantly recognize what you were looking at? I'll tell you from experience, it is a total nightmare. So that's why I always say, once you make a clone, get in there and rename it. And then every time you name one of your surveys or your segmentation funnels, name it something you will instantly recognize. So we've got this one here. We're going to choose that. I'm going to hit continue. And then you're just going to do this fetch and continue. And what's happening here, because you're going to see some like strange information in the test. What's happening is Bucket sent over, remember we clicked a button that said start with a test lead? So what Bucket did is they just sent some test information over just to make sure all the fields are filled in, and when you're going through and you're setting this up, you'll actually have test information to work with so you know everything is working correctly. Okay? So that's why we're doing this fetch and continue. Test was successful, everything's connected, everything looks good. Now we are going to hit continue. And at this point, we're going to add our email service provider. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this, and I don't want to get too crazy, but real quick, just so I can kind of get some idea here of everyone who's on here. What email service providers do you guys use? Got ActiveCampaign. I see MailChimp. I see Infusionsoft. See HubSpot, Drip, 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 Drip. So we know Drip is definitely a popular email provider here. So another Infusionsoft, an ActiveCampaign. Okay. So most of these that you guys are mentioning have automation on the back end. So what I always suggest, if your software, if your email platform has automation on the back end, just do the bare minimum here in Zapier. All you want to use Zapier for is to send information from Bucket into your ESP. The reason why is because if you have Zapier, a free service that is basically just a conduit, you try to do a bunch of automation stuff there, you're just asking for it. You're asking for trouble. As opposed to your email platform, which you're paying to handle automation, right? You can do most of the stuff there. So, however, there are some like I want to say, I think ConvertKit. Does anybody here have ConvertKit? If you do, just say yes. If not, I'll skip it. But if you're using a platform like ConvertKit, and even honestly, even MailChimp, but we don't have to worry about MailChimp right now because we do a direct integration. But there's some that don't have automation, and so you do need to do some. But if no one here has ConvertKit, I'm just going to move forward. All right, so it doesn't look like anyone here does. All right, so honestly, all you've got to do if you are using something like Drip or ActiveCampaign or even I think like GetResponse and Aweber to an extent, you can just come over here, add your action step. As you can see here, I've got Ontraport, I've got ActiveCampaign, and I'm just going to do an ActiveCampaign. I actually do have Drip. Let me see. After I add this one, I may try to add a Drip. And just see if we can. I don't know if I have one of those accounts connected. But anyways, It's honestly, it's all almost identical for the bigger kind of email platforms. Because what you're looking for is you're gonna add your. I'm gonna remove this real quick just so you can see. If you add drip, if you add active campaign, here I'll just add drips just so you can see. So you've got create or update subscriber, right? That's what you're looking to do. You're looking to create or update a subscriber. And most of these have that option on it. So I'm going to delete this one real quick. Delete, yes. And just so you can see what I mean, how they all kind of tie together. So I could go through one, and you're going to get the same information. So you're going to set create, update, contact. Let's try Entreport. I think has the same kind of create or update, contact. So as you can see, most of these, they all look the same. So when I walk through the rest of this, even though I'm not doing yours specifically, it's the same exact thing. All right, does that make sense to everybody? Let me just make sure that I didn't get any extra ones added in there. Pop this open real quick. Infusionsoft. Okay, cool. I didn't see any new ones added in. All right. So the way we're going to walk, I'm going to walk through an active campaign because I know it's connected. But when you go to connect your here, I'm going to actually create, update. So again, remember, like I said, you always want to do create, update, contact. Sometimes it may just say create or update contact, but that's what you're looking to do. Save and continue. Now, you see this screen here where it says I've already got my account added. This is another thing that's always going to be different based on your platform. Some people have API codes. Some people have just all you got to do is log into your account from Zapier. Some have different URLs and different URL strings. But all you've got to do to connect your account is just click Connect Account. Most of the time, some of the bigger ones, they'll tell you where to go to do it. Like they'll put the instructions right here. Log into your active campaign account, click My Settings, blah, blah, blah. So you've got, most of them will have some sort of instructions for you to get your API codes. And then you just fill that in, hit yes and continue, and boom, you'll have it just like this. And as you could see earlier, every time you add an email provider to your Zapier account, it's there for good, all right? So now we've added our bucket account, we've connected it, we've chosen our survey that we're going to be sending the information over to our email provider. We've got all that set up, we've chosen our email provider. Now we're going to go in and choose where the lead is going to go once they fill it in. All right. So on a survey, remember, this is just a plain survey, right? So what I would probably do in this case is just have a single list for surveys. I would probably just call it my survey list, just so I could have that, see who all had filled it out. I'll just choose just a random list right here. So, and again, these are all going to be different. Your platform may not ask you for a list. Like Infusionsoft isn't going to ask you for a list, right? I don't know. Drip, I think, does. Again, you'll see the things that you have to have connected for it in your once you get to this screen. But it's on a whole, it's going to look very similar to this. So what you'll do next is what you're looking to do is populate this lead, this subscriber with the information that they gave you in bucket. Like that's what this whole step is setting that up. So I've got it going to this list. I've got email address. So what I'm going to do here is that you see how I clicked on this little link over here? It's kind of like a plus sign with a drop down. And in this case, I'm going to choose email, right? So that whatever email address gets filled in on the contact page on the survey, that's the email that's going to go in here. First name, I'll do the same thing. I'll just choose name here. Because another thing that I've found is that no matter how many fields I put for name, they always put their first and last name in the first name field. And it's been like that since the beginning of internet, I think. You could also do, again, you'll have whatever options you have. You could, adjust if you wanted to do full name. I could do that as well if I wanted to. Phone number, same thing. Tags. All right. So here's my thought on tags. I will typically, if I do a tag, it probably won't be on the survey. I won't send an automated tag in here. What I will typically do is say something like, OneonOne survey, just so I know that this person came from a one-on-one call survey, right? If I was gonna use this tag. So you can do two things. Typically in this section is create your own tag, or you can come in and you could put one of your other fields as a tag if you wanted to do that. If that's how you wanted to do your segmentation, you could choose any of those fields as a tag. What I would typically suggest in most cases is that you use a field for your for the responses, right? Especially if it's like a multiple word, like most of those responses that we have over here in Bucket. Here, let's just come back over here. So, like for instance, if I was to try to name that as a tag, it would just say yes, no. It wouldn't say ask is in the ask method, right? And let me see here. You would have a tag that would say something like 4 surveys or 4 segmentation funnels. To me, that wouldn't work. So what I typically say to do for tags is only use them if you're using like a one-word, like your outcome, for instance, in a segmentation funnel. And I'll get into that here in a second, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Or again, tag it, put like a hard-coded tag in so you know where the person is coming from. So I'm going to check. I'm going to make sure that makes sense to everyone. Pull this up. I'm going to look at a couple of questions here. So if you create surveys for a few different clients, do they need to have their own Zapier login for me to integrate with each one individually, or would I just use my own Zapier account for all my clients and their surveys? You could do either one. So if you're wondering, do I need a Zapier account for each of my clients? Depends. If one client's doing a bunch of volume and you want them to pay for their own Zaps, then have them use their own Zapier. Or you could just use just use your own. And you could have, ultimately you can have, I think it's on the free account, I think it's 3 to 5 active Zaps running at one time. So just keep that in mind. But you can totally do it all in one. Zapier doesn't collect the data at all. All right, so the next step here that we're looking for is adding the rest of these fields in, right? So we're asking someone, have you enrolled in Ask? How do you plan on using Bucket? So if these are things that I wanted to use later on in an email to you, what I would do is I would find my field in ActiveCampaign, and I would attach that Zapier tag. That's why we use Zapier tags, is I would attach that response to it. And the way you do that, so let's just say I'm going to just, or I've got job title and company in here. So let's just pretend one of these was ask, right? The ask question, are you in the ask method? The other one, let's just pretend this one was, are you planning to use Bucket? Or how are you planning to use Bucket, right? So then what I've done here is based on what they or fill in, this is where that information is going to go. Does that make sense? So if someone was going through this survey and they said, yes, I'm an Ask, and I plan on using Bucket for surveys and for the segmentation funnels, what would happen to that lead or that subscriber when they get sent over to ActiveCampaign is I would have their email address, their name, their phone number, I would know whether, if they chose yes, I would know that they were in Ask, and if they planned on using Bucket for surveys and segmentation funnels, I would have those responses here as well. So this subscriber in my email list, I would know everything I need to know about them to segment them and email them later on based on their choices. Is this making sense to everyone how to use the Zapier tags inside of Zapier once you're setting this thing up? Yes, good. Yes, thank you. Awesome. Okay, cool. Is anyone, I'm going to give it 1 second. Do we need to use Zapier to connect to a payment system? No. No, if you want to just link off to your shopping cart, you could do that from a thank you page or an outcome page. Zapier is only there to send information that's collected into your email service provider. Cool. So once you're done with this section, this is called, by the way, if you need to, like let's say you got in here and you created a bunch of questions in Bucket, and you got to this section in your email service provider setup, and let's say you forgot, oh, I don't have enough fields. Like, obviously I didn't have a field for ask or a field for use Bucket, right? I didn't have those fields already. So let's say I needed to go create those in ActiveCampaign. Well, I would jump over to ActiveCampaign, create the field, the custom fields in ActiveCampaign, and then I could come back here and hit refresh fields. And then what Zapier would do is go back to ActiveCampaign, look for those new fields, and come and put them in here. If later on you think to yourself, you know what, man, I really should be sending the open-ended question too. It'd be nice to have it in my email, provider for whatever reason. Maybe you could do some kind of automation on it. Then you can always come back in, come to this, like you would edit the Zap, come down here to what's called Edit Template, and that's how you get to this screen here. It's under Edit Template on your email provider. That's where you can come in and edit all these cool things here. So once you're done setting up the lead to where it looks exactly the way you want it when it goes to your email service provider, hit Continue, and you'll get this look here so that you'll see where how this lead will look. All right? And then you'll hit Create and Continue. Test is successful, and then when you're ready, you just hit Finish. And then once you hit Finish, you have the option of turning it on. And this answers the question I think I saw earlier when I said you could have 3 to 5 zaps. I don't know the exact number. It's a quick look will tell you. But it's one of those. So once you have a zap turned on, once it's active, what Zapier starts doing is monitoring that survey or that segmentation funnel for new responses. Okay? So once you turn it on, it starts looking at that, and then every time a new response comes in, Zapier says, oh, new response, here, take it, it's yours, email service provider. So it sends it, I think it's anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes it checks. So that is how you connect your Bucket account to your email service provider using Zapier, and then making sure all the information gets sent through by using the Zapier tags. So, looks like we just kind of jumped all the way through that. Now, let me just real quick make sure, is everybody kind of up to speed on connecting to Zapier? Looks like it. Looks like our support specialist is doing a fine job over there in the chat. Thank you very much, sir. So let's get to this next phase here. This is a new feature that we've started adding into Bucket. It's our direct integration. Now, as I'm talking, this is the 26th of September. Right now we have one active direct integration, and that is with MailChimp. The next integration that has been announced that it's going to come is Infusionsoft. So if you're a MailChimp user or an Infusionsoft user, this is for you. And I know I saw drip, and then I've seen a lot of requests for drip. I don't have the exact date, but I can tell you this: if I've seen it, so has everyone else. The people that make the decisions on when these things get added. So I definitely know drip and ActiveCampaign and Entreport and all the other big ones that you guys are using are on their way. But as of right this second, MailChimp is the one that's in, and so what I want to show you is how, if you use MailChimp, here is how you do a direct integration. And you'll basically be doing the exact same thing with the other email providers. So if you have Infusionsoft, this is a good thing for you to watch as well, because you'll be doing the same thing shortly. All right. So the first thing that you want to do when you're doing a direct integration is come over to Settings. So what I just did is I clicked out to like my main kind of dashboard area, right? Because you can't access this menu from inside a funnel itself or a survey. You have to back all the way out. And so what I've done here, so let's just say I just logged in. If I want to do a direct integration, I will click on Settings. I will click on Integrations, where it says Manage ESP Integrations. And now what I have the choice to do is select from the available integrations below. Just drag and drop the icon over here. So in this case, I've already got a MailChimp, but here's the thing. You can have, I say you cannot have duplicated integrations. You only get the one. So what you'll do is inside this integration, let me click on it. I think I can get the API key. All right. Well, since I don't want to walk you through like a full going inside of MailChimp, what I'll do here is just so you can see what happens. So if you pulled this over, you're going to have the option of integrating your MailChimp. And the way you do that is you just come over, you go over into MailChimp and grab your API key. Does it tell you where to do that? It's really simple. Inside of MailChimp, if you click on here, let me see. I think I might actually even be logged in. Let me just see if I can do a quick. Let's see if I'm already logged. Let me just see if this is already logged in. Okay, there we go. Basically, just to get your API, you just come to Account and is it Integrations? No, that's not how you do it. I don't remember how I did it. Anyways, I would just do a help, just a quick search in MailChimp. I remember doing it the other day. I just don't remember exactly how I got it. Anyways, let me see if I've got this guy over here. Anyways, so what you'll do is you'll get the API code, API key, I should say, and just paste that in here. And what you'll do is you'll do a quick verify, and it's real simple. When Bucket does the verify, they'll just say, "Yep, that works perfectly," and then you hit save, and then you have the option of turning it off or on. You know what? Here, why don't I do this? I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to just delete it. Just so we can see, I want you guys to see how simple it is to do this real quick. So I'm going to drag this over here. I'm going to paste that API key. I'm going to hit check. API key is valid. I'm going to hit save. And it literally was that simple. The hard part, obviously, is finding the API key in MailChimp. But if you are using MailChimp in here and you just want to ask, I think the support specialist should be able to walk you through it. If you're using it, you can ask it in there. Okay, so now that you've connected MailChimp to, or Infusionsoft or whatever it is you're going to be doing a direct integration with, once you've added that into your Bucket account, now you want to go into your funnel or your survey and connect it. And that part is even easier than doing it with the Zapier. In fact, I think when you guys see this, whoever doesn't have it is going to be a little bit jealous. But don't worry, it's coming soon. So let's jump back over here let's just go back to that survey I was just working in real fast. And I'm going to hit edit. And I'm going to go to configure. And I'm going to do, instead of integrating with Zapier, I'm going to do the direct integrations. And I'm going to, since MailChimp is the integration that we have access to, I'm going to hit integrate. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to just turn it on so that I know that it's going to work. Now, what you've got what Bucket's doing here is it's going into your MailChimp account and it's pulling all the lists that you have. So you want to select the default list from your ESP. And in this case, I only have the one list in there. Just call it Jeremy's Bucket. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of the fields that I have being filled out on my survey, and I'm going to send those over to MailChimp. So we've got select default merge field for email address. So that's going to be email. And select a default merge field for name. That's going to be fname. So these are the fields that are in MailChimp, just so you know. So what I'm doing over here is I'm choosing the field that I use in MailChimp. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge the tag mapping. And what that means is, like before we were using Zapier tags, well, now we would do that directly in this screen. Okay, so I'm going to click add. And for this first one, I'm going to choose, are you enrolled in the ask method, right? And then I'm going to choose, basically I would need to come back over here and add add custom fields. I think you would do that here. I'm not a MailChimp guru. I literally just set this thing. Yeah, but okay, but this is where I would do it, right? So I would come over here and add a custom field for each of those things, like I showed you to do in Zapier, but you would do that over in MailChimp. So that way, you would come over here and let's say we would probably have a field called ask, right? So in this case, we'll just do LNAME. And then what we'll do here is we'll just say, what we want to be sent over there. So we could either, if we leave it blank, it'll just be sent the information. Or we could come over here and say ask yes or ask no. So here you can actually customize exactly what gets sent over. So if you had like a long kind of let's say you had like a long, so where this one said 4 segmentation funnels or 4 surveys, if I just wanted to say survey segmentation, that's another way you could do it. So if you've got some of these multiple choices that have long responses and you don't want that entire response sent over, here's where you could cut that down and actually and choose what you want to be, customize what gets sent over. All right. So then I'm going to hit Save Changes. Successfully saved, and that's it. Now, once I publish this survey, anything that comes in, this information gets sent over to MailChimp automatically. And I don't have to use the Zapier to do it. And so, like I mentioned before, I told you I would give you a little announcement. Well, the next one is Infusionsoft. And I can't exactly give you a date. I would be shot dead where I stand if I said it'll be on this exact date. I can tell you they actually put the announcement on Facebook, so that means it is definitely going to be here shortly. So if you're using Infusionsoft and you haven't set up Zapier, you may want to save yourself a little bit of headache and just hold off and do the direct integration once it's here. Again, you'll follow these exact same processes for setting it up for Infusionsoft. So that's how the direct integration works. You add your email provider on the in the settings screen on the main area, and then you come over and do the direct integration here. One kind of debugging, like if you're troubleshooting and like something doesn't look right, a couple of things that I've seen so far is you forget to turn this thing on. So again, this has to be moved over to green. If it's not, obviously it's not going to send the data. Another thing is that for it to go through and be sent to your to MailChimp, the survey has to be published. You can do a quick test lead. You can do a run test, and it'll put a test lead into your MailChimp list. So those are a couple of the ones that I've seen kind of pop up. Another thing too is I noticed one person was using HTML instead of a text for one of their fields in MailChimp. So just make sure you're using probably like text is a pretty good idea to use when you're choosing the type of form you're using over in MailChimp. Again, I'm not a MailChimp guru, as you can see. I couldn't even find the API code twice, but it's not if you've been in it for any amount of time, you probably know exactly where that's at. So that's how you do the direct integration. Is that making sense to everyone? I know we've got our guys over here. I'm gonna pop this thing out, make sure everything's good. All right, so looks like just a couple of people asking, will there be integration for HubSpot? I do not know the answer to that, John. I know if it's been asked for a lot, definitely will. I just don't know when. Awesome, awesome. All right, so now we've kind of walked through. You guys have seen how to connect your ESP, your email service provider, to Bucket. We've looked at both the Zapier and the direct integrations. Looks like our support specialists have done a bang-up job getting these things answered, but let me kind of look through. I just want to see if there's anything else in here that I want to make sure we address. I'm going to go through these questions real fast and see if there's anything that's kind of come up a lot. Voss wants to know, how about ClickFunnels, especially with their new email service? If they have a Zapier, then yes, but I don't think they do. I don't think they have that. I saw someone had done a somehow connected to ClickFunnels, but I didn't go too deep into how they had done it. So right now, I don't think you can connect to ClickFunnels through Zapier. But you'll want to just do it. What you can always do if you're not sure is jump over into Zapier. I'm just going to go to Zapier.com. You can always just come over to Zapier and just do a search. So let's say, for instance, ClickFunnels. See, I think ClickFunnels is in there, but I don't know if they have a thing where they accept information from like a software like Bucket. So you'll want to play with that for sure. But if they do, then you would just do it the exact same way. I know we don't have a direct integration for them yet, and I don't have a date on theirs either. What I've seen is Infusionsoft, Ontraport, Drip, ActiveCampaign, and then I think like Aweber or GetResponse or one of those. So, all right, so if you have any questions, feel free to fill it out. It looks like you guys have been doing it, and it looks like the support has done a great job in answering all of these. What I want to do now is get you guys out of here. So before I do, though, like I promised before, if you want to get on a one-on-one call with a bucket.io specialist, it's totally free, and I'm going to get you guys the link to the schedule here right now. Let me jump back over here. That's what I was making for you here. Actually, you know what? Let me turn off that integration real quick. Okay. Edit. Just going to turn that off. And publish. We get you guys a link to a one-on-one call schedule. All right, so what you could do now, if you've never done this before, what the one-on-one call is, just so you understand, is is a chance to talk to a bucket specialist like myself and to cover any problem you might be having, or not even a problem. Like if you're just using Bucket and you want someone to kind of walk you through it, maybe whatever you're working on, and just look at it and help you get to that next step, this is perfect for you. You know, again, it's not always about, oh, I have a problem, I need to talk to somebody. For that, you could get on support, right? I mean, our support is fantastic, as you guys can see in the chat here. But if you're working on something and you just need someone who's done it a bunch, like someone who's done a ton of surveys, a ton of segmentation funnels, has used Bucket like every single day since it's been turned on, maybe a good idea to get one of these calls, right? And it's totally free. Like I said, it's 15 minutes. It's a Zoom meeting. It's not a phone call. So it's something we'll actually get done on every single one of these calls. So what we'll typically do is connect with you, have you do a screen share, go into your account, watch over your shoulder while you click around, so that when we get off the call, something has you literally are on to the next step. It's done. You're moving forward. And I haven't seen a problem yet that's too big. You know, most of the things that you have an issue with can be solved, like I said, in 15 minutes. The biggest benefit that I've seen from them, and I've done a lot, I've talked to a lot of people, is that most of the time you feel like you're on track, you're moving forward, and there is no better feeling when you're actually using a software than not having to really deal with the software anymore, right? It's working, it's moving, it's doing its thing, and all you've got to do is, you know, run your business. And that's what these calls are designed for, to get you past that point where you're dealing with the software and get back to focusing on your business. So,
sorry, Jeremy, are you there? Can you hear
yes,
me well? Jeremy, can you display again the link? We have some customers requesting that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I forgot to. Did I not put it in? Here, let me do that. See? I was so ready to start telling you how awesome these things are, I forgot to paste it in. Let me see. I'm going to go over to chat, and I'm going to paste this in right now. All right, let me know if you guys see this or not. You guys see it in the chat? Pull this up. Got it. Awesome. Got it. Cool. So here's one more thing I want to point out about these one-on-one calls. They go super fast. So if you want help and you want to get on one of these calls, it could be to cover, you know, get your Zapier set up. If you just want someone to look at it and make sure you have it right, so you're not you know, sending the wrong data over to your email provider, get on the call. If you are just now building your first survey, or you're just now building your first segmentation, and you just want someone to look and make sure you're using the right tool, get on the call. I can't think of any reason why somebody wouldn't want this, other than maybe if you feel like you're not ready for a call yet, that might mean it's time to get one, just so you can get yourself moving forward, right? Again, they're totally free. It's not like you have limited access. What we'll typically do is let you get on the schedule every time you get on one of these webinars. Like, that's kind of our incentive. You get a webinar, you get access to you know, a one-on-one. Our big issue is getting you using the software successfully, so that you're not thinking about Bucket. You're on to bigger and better things while it's working for you in the background. And that's why we have these. So I'm gonna paste it one more time just in case you guys need it. Put it right here in the chat. And that is your invitation. And just so you know too, and I'm not gonna sit here and read all these, but just so you know, like, people, when they use these things, I have never had someone say, oh, this was awful, I didn't get anything done. Every single time, people who use these one-on-one calls, they are moving forward. So if you want to make sure you're moving forward using Bucket, definitely get one of these calls. All right, that is the big picture of this call. I think we got most of it done. I'm looking kind of just to see if there's any last-minute questions that popped up. I don't see any. looks like everyone has everything they need covered. So that's awesome. 6 minutes early, folks. That's how you get your morning started. So off you go. Have a wonderful day. I do want to invite you to our webinar for this afternoon. I've got one at 4 o'clock Central Time. We'll be covering how to customize your survey or your segmentation funnel. We're going to go deep into the subject of customization. I'm going to cover everything, all the things you can do to make your funnel or your survey look amazing. And so you're totally invited to that. That will also be recorded, so if you can't make it, don't worry, it'll be available for you. This call was recorded, so if there was anything you saw in here that you need access to, again, like some of those Zapier screens, some of the explanations, that will be available. We'll send you guys out an email with the replay. We'll put it on our Facebook page, and you will have it. Have a wonderful day. Thank you again for coming, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.